a jar of cold cream, a bag of cotton balls, and a bathroom shelf that cost less than $2 to stock. That was it. That was the entire skincare routine of a woman who somehow had better skin at 70 than most people have at 35 after spending $60 on a single serum. Think about that for a second. We have more skincare products available right now than at any other point in human history. There are over 12,000 registered skincare brands in the United States alone, and yet dermatologists keep saying the same thing. The basics work. The fancy stuff is mostly marketing. Your grandmother already knew this, she just never had a word for it. But here is the part that really gets me. The products she used were not just cheap alternatives to what we have now. Some of them are chemically identical to what sells for $50, $80, $120 at Sephora today. Same active ingredients, same mechanism, different jar, bigger price tag. And the women who used them, night after night, without fail, without a tutorial, without a skincare influencer telling them what order to apply things in, those women had a consistency that would put most modern routines to shame. So in the next 25 minutes or so, you're going to learn why a balm designed for cow udders ended up on the nightstands of women across New England, why a Baltimore pharmacist accidentally created one of America's most recognizable beauty brands because a customer could not pronounce the word eczema properly, how a Dutch immigrant in Cincinnati invented a scent so powerful it can teleport you back to your grandmother's house in under a second, why the most effective moisturizer ever measured by dermatologists costs about $3 and has been sitting on drugstore shelves since 1870. What a South African chemist's frustration with his wife's moisturizer did to the entire American beauty industry. And why the real secret behind all of these products was never the product itself. Let us start with the one product that almost every woman in America had on her bathroom shelf by 1950, and the fact that it works exactly the same way as the most expensive Korean beauty trend of the last decade: Pond's Cold Cream. If you grew up in the 1940s, 50s, or 60s, you do not need me to describe it. You can see it right now. The small glass jar, the green lid, maybe blue depending on the era, the thick white cream, and the ritual. 2 fingers scooping it out, slow circles across the face, upward strokes, then a cotton ball, then another, until the cotton came away clean. But here is what most people do not realize about what was actually happening during that ritual. When your grandmother smoothed that cold cream across her face, the mineral oil and beeswax in the formula dissolved her makeup, her sunscreen residue, and the day's accumulated oil, not by stripping it away like soap does, but by binding to it. Oil dissolves oil, that is basic chemistry. Then, when she wiped it off with cotton, she removed the dissolved grime while leaving a thin, protective film on her skin. Modern Korean beauty routines would later build an entire industry around this exact concept. They called it double cleansing. They gave it a name, a philosophy, a 10-step system. Your grandmother just called it washing her face. Now, Pond's did not become a household name by accident. The advertising agency, J. Walter Thompson, one of the most powerful ad firms in America, launched an endorsement campaign in 1924 that was unlike anything the beauty industry had seen. They recruited European royalty. Queen Marie of Romania signed on in 1925. Dozens of prominent American socialites followed. The slogan was devastating in its simplicity. She is engaged. She is lovely. She uses Pond's. Sales increased by 17% annually during the campaign's first 6 years. By the time Cheesebro Pond's merged in 1955 and put the product on supermarket shelves nationwide, the glass jar had become as familiar in American bathrooms as the toothbrush holder. Dolly Parton has called it one of her old faithfuls. But Dolly is Dolly. The real testament is the millions of women who never said a word about it, They just used it. Every single night. But Pond's was not the only cold cream in the cabinet, and the one sitting next to it has a story that is, honestly, kind of insane. Noxzema. Open a jar and the smell hits you before your fingers even touch the surface. Eucalyptus, camphor, menthol. Sharp. Cool. Unmistakable. That particular tingle that made you feel like the product was doing something. Here's the thing. It was doing something, but it started as something else entirely. In 1914, a Baltimore pharmacist named George Bunting was mixing compounds in the back of his drugstore at 6 West North Avenue. He was not trying to create a beauty product. He was making a sunburn remedy. He called it, creatively, Dr. Bunting's Sunburn Remedy. A customer came back a few weeks later and told him it had knocked out his eczema. "It knocked my eczema," the man reportedly said. Bunting, who apparently had a better ear for branding than for medicine, compressed that phrase into a single word: Noxzema. Nox, eczema. By 1917, the Noxzema Chemical Company was officially founded, with total first-year sales of $5,214 and a staff of 4 people. Think about that. A $5,000 company, born from a customer who could not pronounce a medical condition properly, became a fixture in tens of millions of American bathrooms. Women started using it as a nightly face cleanser because that camphor tingle felt like results. And, in fairness, camphor does have documented anti-inflammatory properties. The base of stearic acid, linseed oil, and soybean oil provides genuine moisturizing benefit. Grandmothers would massage it in, leave it on for a few minutes like a mask, then rinse with cold water. Some of them skipped the rinse entirely. They slept with it on. And you know what? Their skin looked great. The tingle was the point. The tingle meant clean. But if Noxzema was the one everyone talked about, there was another cleanser that nobody talked about, and that was its greatest strength. Albolene Moisturizing Cleanser. Since 1905, 5 ingredients, that is it: mineral oil, petroleum, paraffin, sericin, and beta-carotene. No water, no preservatives, no fragrance. You massage it into your skin, and it dissolves everything: foundation, mascara, waterproof eyeliner. No tugging, no scrubbing. Wipe it away with a soft cloth, and you are done. Albolene never had a celebrity endorsement. It never had a magazine advertising campaign. It traveled by word of mouth. Grandmother to granddaughter. Theater makeup artists to drag performers. Nurses to dermatology patients. The formula has not changed in over 100 years, because there is nothing to change. One dermatologist recalled giving samples to her grandmother, who immediately said, "My mother used this," which means that product had traveled 3 generations on nothing but whispered recommendations. That is insane when you think about it. In a world that spends billions of dollars on beauty advertising every year, Albolene built a century-long customer base on literally just being good. But let me shift gears here, because not everything in your grandmother's medicine cabinet was sophisticated. Some of it came from the kitchen, and some of it came from the barn. Bag Balm. Here is a product that was absolutely, categorically, 100% not designed for human beings. In 1899, the Dairy Association Company in Lyndonville, Vermont, created a thick, lanolin-rich balm to soothe the cracked udders of dairy cows during those brutal New England winters. John Norris, a local hired to run the company, bought the rights to market the stuff, packaged it in a square green tin decorated with red clovers and cow imagery, and called it Bag Balm, because it was for udder bags on cows. Now here is where it gets good. Farmers' wives noticed something. Their husbands, the ones with hands caked in bag balm after milking every morning, had softer skin than they did. softer than the women who were using actual lotions. So the wives started quietly borrowing the tin from the barn. A little dab on the dry knuckles, a bit on the cracked heels, some on the chapped lips before bed. Word spread through farm communities across Vermont, then New Hampshire, then all of New England. And eventually, the product migrated from the milking stool to the medicine cabinet. The formula has barely changed since 1899. Petroleum, lanolin, and a mild antiseptic. That is it. Admiral Richard Byrd brought Bag Balm on his Antarctic expedition in the 1930s, where it was used to treat frostbite on the Guernsey cows he hauled to the South Pole. There is a letter from the expedition's herdsman dated July 3, 1936, confirming that Bag Balm healed a cow's severe frostbite completely. A product designed for cow udders, endorsed by an Antarctic explorer, used by farmers' wives who stole it from the barn. And it works because lanolin, which comes from sheep's wool, is one of the closest natural substances to human sebum. Your grandmother did not know the word sebum. She just knew her hands felt better. But the barn was not the only unexpected source of beauty products. The garden had one too. And it is still sitting in your refrigerator right now. Cucumber slices on the eyes. This is the one that looks ridiculous and works anyway. Walk to the kitchen, slice a cold cucumber, press 2 rounds over closed eyes, lie down for 10 minutes. It looks like a parody of a spa treatment from a 1950s magazine ad, and honestly, it kind of was. But the science behind it is solid. Cucumbers are roughly 95% water. They contain caffeic acid and vitamin C, both of which reduce swelling and calm irritated skin. The cold temperature of a refrigerated slice constricts blood vessels around the eyes, reducing puffiness. Dermatologists today still recommend cold compresses for under-eye bags. A chilled cucumber does exactly that, naturally. No jade roller needed, no ice globe, no $90 cryotherapy eye mask. A vegetable and 10 minutes of quiet. That was the whole prescription. And while we are on kitchen ingredients, let me tell you about the one that is chemically identical to what sells for $50 in a serum bottle today. Lemon juice on dark spots. If Grandma had a cluster of freckles or a sunspot she wanted to fade, she reached for a lemon. Fresh juice on a cotton ball, dabbed onto the discolored area, left on overnight. It sounds like folk medicine from another century, but here is what is actually happening at the molecular level. Citric acid is a natural alpha-hydroxy acid, AHA. That term gets thrown around in expensive skincare marketing like it is some proprietary breakthrough. It is not. It is lemon juice. Alpha-hydroxy acids exfoliate the outer layer of dead skin cells, gradually revealing brighter skin beneath. And the vitamin C in lemons inhibits melanin production, which is the pigment responsible for dark spots. Modern brightening serums contain these exact active ingredients, packaged in sleek bottles, sold for a significant markup. The difference, and this is an important difference, is that undiluted lemon juice can be too acidic for sensitive skin, especially if you go out in the sun the next morning without protection. Your grandmother had the right chemistry. The delivery system needed refinement. But the principle? The principle was dead on. Okay, let us talk about the product that triggers more sensory memories than probably any other item on this list, because this one is not about what it did, it is about what it smelled like. Jergens Original Lotion, Cherry Almond. That scent, that specific scent, can transport a grown adult straight back to 1963, sitting on a kitchen chair while Grandma rubbed lotion into her hands before pulling on cotton gloves for the night. It is one of the most powerful olfactory memory triggers in American consumer history, and it has been doing that since 1901. Here is the backstory. Andrew Jergens Sr. and Charles Geifus founded the Andrew Jergens Company in Cincinnati, Ohio, in 1882. Their first product was coconut soap. In 1901, the company acquired the product lines of the Robert Eastman Company, a perfume and lotion manufacturer, including a formula called benzoin and almond lotion compound. They simplified the name to Jergens lotion, and it became the best-selling hand lotion in America almost immediately. The nighttime routine was practical, not vain. Women who spent their days washing dishes by hand, scrubbing floors, hanging laundry, those women had hands constantly exposed to harsh detergents and weather. The cotton gloves trapped heat and moisture, allowing the lotion to penetrate deeper while they slept. It was an overnight hand mask, decades before that term existed. A 1953 McCall's Magazine beauty column recommended the exact same technique. Apply cream, full-on cotton gloves, sleep. The methodology has not changed because the physics have not changed. Occlude the moisture. Let the emollients absorb. Done. But speaking of occlusion, let me tell you about the undisputed heavyweight champion of locking moisture into skin, and it is the product that surprises people the most. Vaseline, petroleum jelly, on the face. This one makes people uncomfortable. Vaseline was not just for chapped lips and scraped knees in your grandmother's house. She put it on her face. A thin layer smoothed across the cheeks, forehead, and under the eyes before bed. She sealed everything in. Robert Chesbrough discovered petroleum jelly in 1859 when he traveled to the oil fields of Titusville, Pennsylvania, and noticed workers using a waxy residue from the drilling rigs to heal cuts and burns. He spent years refining a purification process, testing the product on his own deliberately inflicted wounds, which is honestly kind of terrifying, and began distributing it under the Vaseline name in 1870. He patented the process in 1872. Here is the number that matters. Petroleum jelly reduces transepidermal water loss by more than 98%. That is a clinical measurement. Transepidermal water loss is the moisture that evaporates from your skin while you sleep. 98% reduction. No other commercially available skincare ingredient comes close. The slugging trend that went viral on social media in the 2020s, that is exactly what your grandmother was doing in 1955. She just called it putting on her Vaseline. She did not need a TikTok tutorial. She did not need a dermatologist to explain occlusion. She needed a $3 jar and 30 seconds before bed. And right next to the Vaseline on that bathroom shelf, in a blue tin that has not changed much since 1911, sat Nivea. Nivea Creme was created by pharmacist Oskar Troplowitz in Hamburg, Germany, and it became one of the first stable oil and water emulsions available to consumers. The name comes from the Latin word nix, meaning snow, because the cream was snow white. Revolutionary at the time. Before Nivea, emulsions separated when the temperature changed. Oil went one way, water went the other. Troplowitz and his collaborator, dermatologist Professor Una, discovered an ointment base called eucerin, a wax derived from sheep's wool that held the mixture together permanently. By the 1950s, that blue tin was in American households everywhere. Grandmothers rubbed it into their cheeks and hands every winter night. The formula contains glycerin, panthenol, and mineral oil. Here is the fact that drives expensive skincare brands absolutely crazy. Those are the same active ingredients found in creme de la mer, which retails for over $200. Dermatologists have pointed this out repeatedly. Both products hydrate through essentially identical mechanisms. One costs 300 times more than the other. The scent of Nivea Creme, that soft, clean, slightly floral fragrance, is one of those universal memory triggers. People who catch a whiff of it in a store often stop mid-step because, for a fraction of a second, they are somewhere else entirely. They are 7 years old. The bathroom is warm. The tiles are cold. and someone who loved them is smoothing cream into their skin. But not all the products in that bathroom were about moisturizing. Some were about typing, toning, cleaning up what the day left behind, and the oldest one in the cabinet is still on shelves right now. Witch hazel. If your grandmother had a bottle of clear liquid with a slightly herbal smell sitting next to her cold cream, that was witch hazel. Dr. Henry Thayer began manufacturing it in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1847. During the Civil War, his preparations were in active demand for the Army. That makes Thayer's one of the oldest continuously produced skincare products in the country. But witch hazel was old long before Thayer got involved. Native American tribes, including the Oneida, used the extract from the yellow shrub to treat sores, open wounds, and to stop bleeding for centuries before it was ever commercialized. Women used it as a nighttime toner, soaking a cotton pad and sweeping it across the face after cleansing to tighten pores and remove any last traces of dirt. The active compounds are tannins, naturally occurring molecules with astringent properties. When applied to skin, tannins cause a mild tightening effect that temporarily reduces the appearance of pores. The extract also has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant qualities that soothe redness and irritation. Modern formulations often add alcohol, which can be drying and counterproductive. But the original witch hazel distillate, the kind your grandmother used, was gentle enough for nightly use. It was also used for hemorrhoid relief, reducing under-eye puffiness, soothing insect bites, and calming razor burn. One bottle, 5 or 6 different uses, for less than $1. That is efficiency that no modern multitasking serum has beaten. And then there was rose water. Some grandmothers made their own, gathered petals from the garden, crushed them in a bowl of warm water, strained the liquid into small glass bottles. Others bought Dickinson's rose water, which has been available at American drugstores for well over a century. Either way, the ritual was the same. A light mist or a cotton pad soaked in rose water, pressed gently against the face after cleansing and before bed. Rose water contains natural anti-inflammatory compounds, including flavonoids and terpenes, that calm irritated skin. It has mild astringent properties similar to witch hazel, but gentler. And here is a detail that caught me off guard. Studies have shown that the scent of rosewater can reduce cortisol levels. Cortisol is the stress hormone, which means that Grandma's bedtime skincare was not just cleaning her skin, it may have been helping her fall asleep. A beauty routine that doubles as anxiety medication, for free, from the garden. Okay, now let us talk about hair, because this is where the nightly routine went from pleasant to adversarial. Pin curls and bobby pins, before rollers, before hot tools, before flat irons and wands and diffusers, there were pin curls. Your grandmother would wrap small sections of damp hair around her finger, slide the coiled section flat against her scalp, and secure it with 2 crossed bobby pins. She repeated this 40 or 50 times across her entire head, covered it with a hairnet or scarf, went to sleep. In the morning, she removed every pin, shook out the curls, and brushed them into soft waves. A box of bobby pins cost almost nothing. The technique required 0 electricity and 0 product beyond the little water or setting lotion. So why did it work so well? The physics are simple. Wet hair is pliable because water breaks the hydrogen bonds in the hair shaft. When the hair dries in a curled position, new hydrogen bonds form in that shape, holding the curl until the next wash. Modern stylists call this a no-heat styling method and charge salon prices for it. Your grandmother did it at the kitchen table for free, every night, for decades. Then came foam rollers in the 1950s, marketed as a softer alternative to the hard metal and rubber rollers that beauty salons used. Softer was generous. Sleeping on foam rollers felt like resting your head on a bag of small rocks. But they delivered overnight curls without the salon visit, and they worked if you could manage to actually sleep. The key was slow, even tension that held wet hair in a curved position long enough for it to dry and hold shape. No heat. Less damage than curling irons, more suffering than any modern beauty routine requires. And then, Clairol introduced the Kindness hair setter in the late 1960s, a set of electric hot rollers that produced curls in 20 minutes. 20 minutes versus 8 hours of sleeping on tiny foam cylinders. You would think every woman in America would have switched overnight. Many did not. They stuck with the foam rollers because they trusted the results, because consistency beats convenience, because that is how your grandmother operated. If the rollers were the architecture, Dippity-Doo was the cement. Introduced in 1965, this bright pink setting gel had the consistency of gelatin and smelled like a perfume counter inside a candy store. Women would scoop it from the jar and work it through sections of damp hair before wrapping each section around a roller or setting it in pin curls. The gel held the hair in place while it dried, producing curls that lasted for days. The active ingredients were water-soluble polymers that formed a light film around each hair strand, providing structure without the crunch of modern hairspray. It washed out easily and left no residue. Beauty columns in the 1960s actively discouraged women from washing their hair more than once a week, which sounds horrifying by modern standards, but was actually better for hair health than the daily washing most people do now. Dippity-Doo was the product that kept styles looking fresh between shampoos. Kiss drummer Eric Carr reportedly slathered it through his hair as a teenager, sleeping with a stocking over his head, trying to flatten his natural curls into a mop top like the Beatles. Even rock musicians knew. But the biggest nighttime hair event was not a nightly thing. It was an event, and when it happened, the entire house knew. The Toni Home Permanent. The Toni Company introduced the kit in the late 1940s, and it changed the economics of American beauty overnight. A salon permanent wave cost $15 and required an appointment. A Toni kit cost $2. The refill was $1. You did it at the kitchen table after dinner. The advertising campaign was legendary. Which twin has the Toni? Pairs of identical twins, one with a salon perm, one with a Toni perm. Viewers were dared to tell the difference. The campaign ran through magazines for years, and it worked because the product worked. More than 2 million women a month were using Toni at its peak. Gillette eventually bought the company, and within 2.25 years, Toni earned $8 million net. The smell of a Toni perm is permanently etched in the memory of every child who grew up in the 1950s. Sharp, chemical, unmistakable. Girls dreaded the back-to-school and Easter seasons, because that was when Mom decided it was time for a Toni. But the curl held for weeks, and millions of women who could not afford regular salon visits got the same bouncy waves as those who could. The Toni kit did not just sell a product. It sold the idea that beauty did not require wealth. Now, let me talk about something quieter, more private. The kind of thing a woman did alone at her bathroom mirror with no one watching, no one to impress. Just maintenance. Castor oil on the eyelashes and eyebrows. She kept a small bottle of cold-pressed castor oil in the medicine cabinet and dabbed it onto her lashes and brows with a fingertip or a clean mascara wand every night before bed. The beauty industry rediscovers castor oil every few years like it is some lost Egyptian secret, which, in a way, it kind of is. Castor oil has been used cosmetically for thousands of years. Castor oil is rich in ricinoleic acid, a fatty acid with anti-inflammatory and moisturizing properties. Clinical studies on its ability to stimulate actual hair growth remain limited, and science is honest about that. We do not fully know if it grows new lashes, but dermatologists acknowledge that the oil coats and conditions lash and brow hairs, reducing breakage and creating the appearance of fuller, thicker growth over time. The main mechanism is moisture retention. Dry and brittle lashes snap off, conditioned lashes stay put. She was not growing new lashes, she was keeping the ones she had alive, night after night after night. And then there was oil of Olay, or oil of Ulan, depending on where you lived. When it first appeared, it was unlike anything else on the market. Every other moisturizer came as a thick cream in a heavy jar. Olay was a lightweight pink fluid that absorbed almost instantly. Here is the real story. In 1949, a chemist named Graham Wolfe in Durban, South Africa, watched his wife Dinah struggle with the thick, waxy beauty creams of the era. They came in tins that looked like shoe polish. They left her skin greasy. Wolfe wanted to create something better. Together, he and Dinah fine-tuned everything from absorption and texture to the delicate pink shade and the fragrance. He deliberately made the packaging mysterious. No ingredient list, no extravagant claims, just a simple bottle and a liquid that felt different from everything else. The product was originally sold as oil of Ulan in South Africa. It became oil of Olay in the United States, oil of Olay in the United Kingdom. The formula's second ingredient was glycerin, a humectant that pulls moisture from the air into the skin. This basic mechanism is still the foundation of most modern moisturizers. Every $50 anti-aging serum you see advertised during a commercial break is doing what oil of Olay did in 1949. Some of them are doing it worse. The product became so associated with grandmothers that younger women initially avoided it, which is ironic because the formula was doing exactly what the products they were buying instead were doing, just more quietly, less Instagram-friendly, more effective per dollar. And then there was Palmer's. The E.T. Brown Drug Company was founded in 1840, making it one of the oldest skincare companies in America. Their cocoa butter formula, with its rich chocolate scent and thick, almost waxy texture, became a bedtime body moisturizer of choice for millions of women. They rubbed it into elbows, knees, and ankles after the evening bath, cotton socks on, long sleeves on. Let the cocoa butter absorb overnight. Cocoa butter is a natural emollient packed with fatty acids that reinforce the skin's moisture barrier. It contains polyphenols, antioxidant compounds that protect skin cells from environmental damage. Women who used it consistently for years often had remarkably supple skin well into old age. It was not glamorous, and it smelled like a candy bar, but it did exactly what it promised. No more, no less, for decades. And that brings us to the oldest product on this entire list, the one that started in 1807 and is still sold today. Pears Transparent Soap. If your grandmother kept a bar of amber-colored soap on the bathroom sink, you probably remember the way it looked, almost like a piece of hard candy sitting in a porcelain dish. That was Pears. Andrew Pears created it in London because he noticed the harsh soaps of his era were destroying women's complexions. His solution was to remove the impurities from the base soap and refine it with glycerin, producing something gentle, translucent, and unlike anything else available. Glycerin is a humectant that pulls moisture into the skin rather than stripping it away. By the 1950s, Pears had crossed the Atlantic and found a permanent home in American bathrooms. Women used it as their nightly face wash, lathering it between their palms and working it in small circles across their cheeks before rinsing with cold water. The glycerin base meant the soap cleaned without leaving that tight, dry feeling that harsher bars produced. Lily Langtry, the English actress, became the first celebrity to endorse a commercial product when she appeared in Pears advertisements in 1882. The brand was acquired by Lever Brothers, now Unilever, in 1917. Modern dermatologists still recommend glycerin-based cleansers for sensitive skin, which means that a product invented 219 years ago is still considered best practice. That is not nostalgia talking. That is chemistry. So here's the thing that none of these products had in common on the surface, but all of them had in common underneath. Consistency. Not one of them required a prescription. Not one required a consultation. Not one required watching a 20-minute tutorial on proper application technique. They were sold at drugstores and 5 and dimes for pocket change. And they worked because the women who used them did not skip nights. They did not take breaks. They did not switch products every 3 weeks because an algorithm showed them something newer. Every single night, rain or shine, tired or not. Your grandmother walked into that bathroom and took care of her skin. She did not call it self-care. She did not photograph herself doing it. She did not share her routine with anyone. She just did it. The same way she did everything else that mattered. Quietly, reliably, without asking for credit. And maybe that is the real product we have forgotten. Not the cold cream, not the cucumber slices, not the witch hazel or the cherry almond lotion. The product we lost was the habit. The discipline of small, daily acts of maintenance performed without complaint, without reward, without an audience. The belief that taking care of yourself was not an event, it was just what you did. Your grandmother's bathroom shelf was not a beauty counter, it was a philosophy. And the philosophy was simple. Show up. Every night. Do the work. The results take care of themselves. And honestly, the science says she was right all along. Keep feeding that brain of yours. I will see you next time.